Hello everyone, this is the Grotesque Dino, and today we're on the next episode of my review series. I am doing the Pennsylvania Railroad Q2 by Broadway Limited Imports. This is my second favorite type of locomotive. It's also my second favorite locomotive in my fleet, although I count the T1s back there as both my favorite. This is another duplex drive locomotive, a 4464. Just before this video, I did a modification on the engine where I made the wheels out of sync. I don't know if you can see it on the other side. Do it like that. They're out of sync. And it was actually really simple. There's a top screw right there, and then there's a bottom screw right there. I mean, there is a screw in the middle, but you don't really need to unscrew that. It was actually really tight, so I'm like, okay, maybe I can change the position by not having to unscrew that. And that's true. You don't have to take off the bottom plate. You just need to unscrew it a bit, and you can already like turn the front wheels. And once you screw it back down, after you change to make them out of sync, they won't move. The gear's back into place. But that's the bottom. There are a lot of details. It's a brass model. It's a brass hybrid, is what people say, but it's really a brass model. It's worth every penny if you can get one, in my opinion. Will I ever sell this? No. It's not going to happen. I was trying to get one from a guy in my club. They said, "Hey, are you willing to sell yours?" He's like, "No." So I'm like, well, when I get one, I'm not going to want to sell it either, because this is probably one of Broadway Limited's best models they ever made. Even though they can't really make it anymore. I heard they lost the drawings and all that whatnot for this modern model, and just a shame, because it's like this is a sought after model if you're a Pennsy fan. I mean, to not have a Q2 is like, well, I guess you could live without a Q2 if you're doing early Pennsy, but if you're gonna be a Pennsy fan and you want everything Pennsy, you gotta get a T1 and you gotta get a Q2. There have only been about like 25 Q2s made, so you could probably get away with not having a Q2 on your layout if you're still a Pennsy fan, but only almost 50 of those T1s have been made, and I got two because, well, there's been 50 made, and I'm only going to have one Q2 because there's only been 25 made, so it's about half of them have been made. Will I ever get another Q2? No. I think one Q2 is enough, although it would be cool to have another one. I know one guy at my club who has one. I think he has the same numbers I have, which is 6187, which is fine. I don't care. I would love to double head with a guy, but this year at the fair, they're not allowing personal engines to run on the layout, which is a shame because, well, I get it. Because last year I did some blunders with, not last year because we didn't have a fair last year because of COVID. No, we did. I'm thinking, hold on. No, we didn't have one in January. Yeah, it was 2020 we had the fair. Yeah, I had my blunders with the 5548 to just run on the layout. Even though it wasn't approved, it still ran, and I had a good time. It broke in, and I guess it understood I don't know how these trains accept dirty track over time. It's so weird, but the layout's not the cleanest place in the world, and somehow my T1 just accepted it before it broke before COVID, and then I got it fixed and I got it back during COVID. But anyways, this engine's about probably like almost 10 years old, and this thing still runs like a champ. It'll probably keep running even beyond 20 years. Who knows? I don't know how long this thing will run. The decoder, though, is the big question. When I first got it, I had a tough time programming it because for me, I wasn't just. Here's what happened. I didn't wait long enough. Long story short, for it to fully program. It only did like one beep, and I'm like, oh. When I went into programming for my Digitrax, and it did one beep, and I'm like, hold on a second, it should do it. And I kept trying. I got called with the not called it, but I sent messages to the seller when I got it. I was like, I don't know, man, something ain't right. And then I talked with my buddy Charles, and he's like, well, try to factory reset it, try everything. And then I finally figured out that this decoder was taking longer than usual to just fully program its new address, because originally it was just address 3, which is interesting. But yeah, I was like, what the heck? I thought there was something wrong with the locomotive. I'm like, I spent a good money for this, and if you're looking for a Q2, you're gonna spend a good money. Don't even think you're gonna try and get a steal. Sometimes you could, if the person doesn't know what the heck they have, but most people are gonna have a Q2. Oh, they know what they have. They know what they have. They're gonna do. They know the research. Some people, you might get a deal off of, but this, I feel like I lucked out, because I think the last Q2 that was painted that I saw sold on eBay was probably around over $900. So the prices of these are probably slowly creeping up higher now. So good luck. I mean, there is one on eBay that's not painted, that's just pure brass. It's a beautiful model, but I don't know why. I guess if people just like to show bare brass models, I guess. I don't know. I would think, I guess they're rarer too, but somebody was trying to sell it for $1,300, and it's still on there if you want it, but that's $1,300 for a brass engine. Well, it's a brass engine. Of course it's going to cost that much. But, yeah, I mean, this is a very beautiful model. There's so many details. The tender. Now, usually the Pennsylvania Railroad stuff that I have from Broadway usually has like yellow lettering, which they did with like gold leaf lettering with the Pennsylvania. I like it, although it's a little bit out of consistency with the other ones, but I guess they wanted to make this really special. We got some wiring details at the bottom of the tender, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty blank below, but they have the water scoop. And then they got the truck details. Just like the T1's trucks, this is basically the same tender as a T1. It's just, this is like the freight version. It doesn't have the streamlining. It's just like the T1's trucks. It's kind of tedious with these 4-axle trucks. But that's cool. I like it. I like the doghouse. The doghouse has like grab irons on top of it too, which is really cool. Wait, stop focusing. There you go. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Some grab irons on the side. Hold on, let me see if it focus. It's not focusing. But there's marker lights in the rear that will light up red. And there's the rear reverse headlight. Some more grab irons. There's couplers, cut bar. Again, this is all brass too. Brass feels weird. It's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be. Probably not as like die cast or anything like that, or metal, like regular iron metal. Brass feels cold like metal, but not as cold as like die cast metal. I mean, it still has that cold touch, and you could probably be mistaken for it almost being plastic, which is interesting to say, but yeah. The hatch, the vent on the top does not open, which is interesting. It's like, oh no, maybe it does. No, it doesn't. I don't want to force it. Oh well. Well, it's probably not going to move anyways, since it's probably just molded on. I don't know. Or maybe it's stuck. Who knows? It does have a smoke generator, although I don't think it has smoke fluid in it. I tried it a few times before. It's like nothing's coming out. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to burn out my smoke fluid. Or smoke generator. It's got partial streamlining from the smokestack, similar to the T1. It's got a similar thing going on. I think the front pilot's got a bit of streamlining. The rest is just typical steam locomotive detail. Got some low stuff. That piece right here, you gotta be careful of that. That's just out on the side and it looks breakable, so I wouldn't. Just be careful with this locomotive. It's got this, I don't know what that thing is. I've seen Broadway have something like that on the C&O 490, those streamlined C&O engines that people love or hate because of the look. I don't know what that is. To me, it looks like that thing from Star Wars that the Sandcrawlers have, where they sucked R2-D2 up. I don't know. Whoop! Sorry about that. But yeah, it's got a brass bell in the front, Pennsylvania Keystone, which is. I heard these engines were dual service, although in reality they were more like freight engines, because originally the Q1 was a dual service and the wheels were bigger. I don't know how big the wheels were, but they were definitely bigger than the Q2s, and the Q1 was really going to be for dual service. And then Pennsylvania's like, well, Q1 sucked. So I guess the Q2 will be our new dual service engine, which is interesting because it's almost 8,000 horsepower, by the way. But the traction, while it's not like articulated locomotive like tier with like the Y6s from Norfolk and Weston, or the most powerful steam engine in the world, which is the Duluth, Wasabi, and Iron Range. I mean, that the 2884 that they had was the most powerful in terms of pulling power, I guess, and traction. But this one, it's not that far off. It's about like 40,000. It's still over 100,000 pounds in like traction and tractive effort. I mean, it's still pretty good. But I'm guessing if you compare it to a J1, it's not that very much better. Although I would say this is a good engine. But the reason why they would prefer the J1 was, this was more expensive to maintain, and I can understand. This is a complex locomotive, a very, very complex locomotive. It had some modern gizmos in it to make it not wheel slip and whatnot. Although, from what I understand, these engines were the most successful of the duplexes on the Pennsylvania Railroad, which is interesting because it's like, well, they made 50 T1s and then they made these 25 Q2s, and yet the Q2s were actually the most successful on the Pennsylvania Railroad, which is interesting. I really find that interesting. These engines have, the Q series had some interesting nicknames. They were called the Queer 1, Queer 2. Queer meaning, that they were odd looking, they were odd engines. That's why they call them the Queer 1 and Queer 2, because they were odd with their wheel arrangement. And I'm guessing they would probably be really odd looking and odd running engines back then, because they were such, you could call it a 410-4 if you wanted to, but it's got two separate pairs of cylinders. So this engine's got so much great detail on it. It's amazing. You could look in the stack. If it zooms in, you could probably see there's one funnel down there. There's just so much detail on this thing. It's amazing. And this engine's 10 years old, and it runs like a champ. Like, it's older. It's probably the oldest steam engine with DCC in my collection. Maybe the Paragon 1 engines, probably. Yeah, I would say the Paragon 1s are the oldest. And the PCM or the PFM model, that is my Decapod. They're probably older, but I think this is probably the best Broadway Limited engine that you can get. This thing will not die. Although I wouldn't run it for like 12 hours like my club does with their model trains. I wouldn't want to test that because it's $800, and to repair this will probably be a fortune because they can't make these things anymore, which sucks. I really wish that they would get at least get one and try to take it apart and 3D scan each part or something just to be able to do it again. I mean, but who's going to want to give up their Q2, right? I'm not going to give up my Q2, so that's probably why it's never going to happen again. Nobody's not going to want to offer their Q2 back to Broadway so they could take it apart, 3D scan each part, and make it in brass again. Maybe that guy who's selling that brass model on eBay for $1,300, for crying out loud, would maybe consider donate it to Broadway so they can make more. That will definitely make the prices of these go down somewhat, but they're still probably going to keep their value since these are such novelty engines. They're rare. Some people could probably argue that the S2 is rare. Look, I've seen a couple S2s pop on and off more often than Q2s, probably because people know that they're not going to make another one. And I'm not sure if Broadway's going to make another S2. I might wait until another run when they're cheaper. Some people try to sell them for $900 or to $1,000 for a one-off engine, which the S2 is a one-off engine, but with just different variations of without the smoke deflectors, and small smoke deflectors, which look silly. I'd rather get either the smoke deflectors, the full elephant ear smoke deflectors, or the no smoke deflectors. I would like the elephant ear one. I mean, S2's not really in my tier to get, really, because but you could argue, you got the 1938 PRR engine, and that one is a one-off with the K4 streamlined, and yeah, I guess you could say so, but there was hundreds of K4, it's not even funny. But yeah, well, maybe one day, if inflation goes down and Broadway decides to make another S2, maybe I might get one. And we'll see what happens there. I would like to see Broadway make a Q1, although it was a failure. But same with the S2, I guess. S2 was a failure as well. I don't know. I would like to see a Q1, or maybe if they could make another Q2, do a fantasy Q2. And people are like, oh my god, a fantasy paint scheme. Oh my gosh. When it comes to Broadway, people don't like those fantasy paint schemes, and I get it. It's not realistic, but at the same time, people like color in their trains. I mean, look at all these Penske engines. Got Penske engines right there, the T1s, the Q2, this M1 that's been here for a while, the Bachmann K4s. They're all pretty much DGLE or black. They're not really colorful engines. Probably the most colorful steam engine of my Pennsylvania fleet is my K4 streamlined, which is bronze, which is not that much better, but it's something. And that's probably the only different colored steam engine in my fleets, really. But yeah, I like the fantasy schemes. Although if I wanted again with the fantasy Q2, I'd like to have the Q1 bullet nose and the streamlining on the side, and with that cab that the K4 that Bachmann made, with that slanted forward look over here, and then it has that streamlined tender similar to the T1, but it has the doghouse in the back, which I thought was a pretty cool looking look. It's it has a T1's tender, but with the doghouse, and I thought that's pretty interesting. I'd like to see that. I mean, it's not historically accurate, but it's a what if kind of thing. It's got it's got that black shrouding, and it's got that bullet nose in the front, and then it has that full streamlining plate that goes down the side, and then it has that cool cab. But it's a Q2, I mean, I understand people don't like the Q1, and for obvious reasons, it was a complete failure. But I thought it'd be interesting for that to be like a fantasy version of, because it's a brass mount. I'm not gonna make so many, but I'm pretty sure people would buy it. You're like, oh, a streamlined Q2 based off of the Q1 streamlining. People are like, that's not realistic, but would I buy one? Oh, of course. That would probably be the only reason why I would buy another Q2 is if it had the Q1 streamlining. So, we're 20 minutes in. Let me put my phone down and we're gonna, because coupling this thing up is a tedious thing, and this is a big engine. Like, I would probably say this is bigger than the T1s. I mean, this is a really big engine. And then we're gonna look at this operator's manual. We'll see what goes on from there. Now, when it comes to coupling this thing, the rear bogie under the firebox of this engine, for some reason, gets caught and it stays at an angle, and you have to just fiddle with it a bit. That until it goes back to its normal place. I don't know why. I don't know if anybody else has a Q2 and they have this similar problem. I mean, it's not a huge problem. It's just weird. They get stuck into that downward position where it just hangs down. Not all the way, just at an angle. All right. I don't know if I got it in. No, I didn't. Sorry if it takes too long. Come on. I have to say Q2's tether plug. It's one of the most tedious ones to try and plug in. Alright, I'm going to try this again. Yeah, it's tedious. Oh, I got it in. It's all the way in. Alright. And then the drawbar for the Q2 is just under the rear chuck too. Come on, there we go. Again, this is kind of a tedious engine sometimes. Not completely tedious, but it can be tedious once you want to get it right. Alright, time to rail it. We'll go back to it. We're going to rail it. Now there's two holes for that drawbar, but when it gets close, this bulge back here from the tender just rubs up against the back head of the steam engine. And yeah, I mean, this thing, there's some spots where you can see some brass paint wear. Maybe on that truck you might see it. No, you're not going to see it. Under here, you see back there's some brass showing. That's okay. I mean, I'm not going to shit my pants over some paint scuffs, but and there's not a lot. There really isn't. I mean, I don't really see any paint scuffs anywhere. That's not a paint scuff. That's just some, I don't know what that is, but it's not a paint scuff. That's just some shit. Or crud or whatever it is. There you go. It's gone. But yeah, this is a monstrous engine. I'm going to turn my camera. That is a monstrous engine. It could probably have two H10s could probably be in like consist with each other, and it might still be bigger than two H10s in consist with each other. That's just how massive this engine is. It's definitely the pride of the Pennsylvania, I'll tell you that, as a mixed traffic engine. And if anybody watches Thomas, Henry's a mixed traffic engine, and he's nowhere big as this. And it's ridiculous. All right, let's power up the track. Oh my gosh, now my caboose can't couple. Come on, caboose. There we go. All right, there we go. Let's power up the track. Track's powered. Let's call it the locomotive, 6187. So on my controller, I have 3, 4, 5, and 6 already activated. I'm gonna turn on the headlight. Headlight's not on. That whistle, that was great. I'm gonna just reverse the engine. Uh-oh. Hold on. I don't think my plug was all the way in. Let me put the camera down again. Let's see. Yeah, that's the plug. People are probably wondering, oh God, is that another engine that just decided to die on you? No. So this plug's one of the loosest plugs that you'll get. And you were like, well, you said this is a good engine. And I'm like, yeah, it is one of the best engines. It's just that it's kind of tedious. Doesn't make it any worse. It just makes it tedious. I'll probably figure out a way to just... Well, I probably can't. I have to get a new decoder and a new plug for the locomotive, and I'm not gonna tear this thing apart to just figure it out how to make it better. Because $800, you know. But let's see. Here we go. Everything's on the track again. Let's see. I'm pretty sure the plug can be loose once you plug it in. It's a socket's the only bad thing I would have to say about this engine. That's really like kind of annoying. All right, let's turn it on. No, it's not moving again. Huh. Okay, let me see if the plug came loose again. I haven't run this engine in a bit, so I'm not sure what's going on. Whew, this thing is tedious. Come on. Okay, I think I got it this time. I think there should be no issues whatsoever. If not, then something's wrong. And that's going to be a shame because this is a really good engine. And I haven't ran this in a bit, and it was running before, so I made sure there's no shorts or anything. Let me just double check. Oh, headlights on. There you go. It's got more of an orange look. Now, some people probably got the later version. I think this might be a later or early version. I'm not sure which version has the blue light, but there's the headlight. It's more orange in real life than on the screen, but it looks good. It's like a gold look. Let's look at the back. You got your marker lights. I know we're gonna run it, but forgot we gotta look at the functions. Let's see what page that is. Oh, it's page 11 this time. Alright, F0's the headlight, which we did. Let's turn on the bell, F1. Like that bell. F3 is coupler slack, which I have on. F4 is air pump, which I have on. F5 is stop blowdown, which I have on. increased chuff intensity as well. F6 is when stopped water fill. F7 is smoke. I already turned off the smoke. F8 is volume mute. It's not as seamless as like Paragon 3, but we all have our issues with Paragon 3 to some extent with the other stuff. But it's a nice thing, I guess. Startup shutdowns 9, which just waiting for it to like stop doing that blowdown. Yeah, for some reason when I power on the track, the engine turns on its own. I don't have to press F9, which I would argue what's going on. You know, like I want to turn it on when I want to turn it on, even though there's power to the rails and whatnot. Just hearing a bunch of Paragon 2 engines just suddenly turn on out of nowhere is kind of interesting. But it's not a big issue, really. It's not at all. I just find it weird. F10's the coal shovel, which... well, let's do it. Well, it's funny because this doesn't have a coal shovel. This actually has like one of those direct feeder conveyor belts into the firebox. There's like a screw that's at the bottom of the tender, and it goes all the way into the firebox. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool technology how they did that. Makes basically the fireman useless, but he's not really useless. He does other things besides, you know, stoking the fire. I mean, you still got to stoke it and spread it out once it's in the firebox, and this is a big-ass firebox. Let's see, F11 is water injectors, which it was already doing. F12 is brake set. We're going to release it. Got F13, which is the grade crossing horn. I really like that whistle. I mean, I could argue that it doesn't sound Pensy, but who do I know? I mean, it's a great sounding whistle. I think it suits the Q2. It makes it sound grand and large. Alright, we got F14, passenger announcements.
All aboard.
We got freight announcements.
Okay, we're ready to pull. Okay, you can run on maximum authorized speed. Okay, thank you, sir. Here we go.
Alright, I like the freight announcements. F14 just seems interesting. You could use F14 because, again, this is a mixed traffic engine, although in reality it was a freight engine. I don't really care. This is a Q2. You can use whatever you want with it. Got F16 maintenance sounds.
Yeah, we're ready to start working up here. Give me a holler when you're all done. All right, there. Start structure here. There's train and thanks for your help. All right.
I like F16. F17's radio sounds.
Go back on the yard channel.
I'm going to keep that on. I like it. F18's city sounds. Oh wow, look at that. You can put a car horn under Q2 with the city sounds. Got farm sounds. There you go. You got Q2 making goat sounds. You can make the Q2 sound like a cow, which is I think probably the best sound feature on this locomotive, guys. It's better than the whistle, I'd argue. What we got? Got F20, which is industrial sounds. That actually does sound like a lumber mill. The second sound. We got, which is weird because F21 is lumber. Oh, that's the whistles that they had at the lumber mills. Oh, because usually they had steam engines back then running lumber mills. What's F-22? Oh, that's another horn. I'm never doing that again. That is really loud. Well, if you're gonna get a Q2, do not press F-22 because you get the Banshee whistle. Like I said earlier in my early reviews, I prefer the Banshee whistle from TCS WOW. I do have some H10s that we'll review in the future, and their whistles sound like a little Porter locomotive, similar to when I did the Bachmann K4S review. I know a lot of people are probably upset and they're like, what the heck? Paragon 2 is great. What are you talking about? Look, the whistle is not accurate enough compared to TCS WOW. So those decoders over there, for those